The champagne was still fizzing in my glass when my wife of exactly 4 hours looked up from our honeymoon suite bed and said the words that would destroy everything. I told my boyfriend he could swing by later. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I'm Eli Granger, 38 years old, owner of a small IT security firm, and apparently the biggest fool in Boston. I just married Sabrina Walsh, now Sabrina Granger, in what everyone called the wedding of the year in our upscale Brooklyn neighborhood. 200 guests, a $50,000 reception, and a bride who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. I set down my champagne flute with the careful precision of a man trying not to shatter everything within reach. Excuse me. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. Inside, my chest felt like someone had detonated a small explosive device. Sabrina stretched like a cat. Her blonde hair spread across the Egyptian cotton pillows of our honeymoon suite at the Mandarin Oriental. She was beautiful. The kind of beautiful that made men stupid. Apparently, it had worked on me for 3 years. Chase is coming by around midnight. I figured you'd be asleep by then. She said this like she was discussing room service. He's been helping me with some wedding stress, you know. I knew Chase Banner, personal trainer at the upscale gym where Sabrina worked out religiously. 6'2", abs like a washboard, and the kind of smirk that made you want to punch it off his face. He had 40,000 Instagram followers who hung on his every protein shake recipe and motivational quote. Helping you with wedding stress. I repeated the words slowly, tasting them like poison. On our wedding night, don't be so dramatic, Eli. Sabrina sat up, not bothering to cover herself. It's not like anything's changed. We're married now. That's what you wanted, right? What I wanted was to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until her teeth rattled. Instead, I stood up and walked to the window overlooking Boston Harbor. The city lights blurred as rage built behind my eyes. How long? I asked. How long? What? How long have you been sleeping with him? She sighed like I was being unreasonable. Does it matter? Look, Eli, you're a sweet guy. You're stable. You've got your little computer business. You'll be a good provider. But I have needs you can't meet. I turned around slowly. Sabrina was checking her phone, probably texting her boyfriend. My wife texting her boyfriend on our wedding night. And you thought you'd just keep both of us? Why not? She shrugged. You get your trophy, wife. I get my needs met. Everyone wins. That's when something inside me shifted. Not broke. Shifted like tectonic plates, finding a new position. I'd been underestimated my entire life. Blue-collar kid who worked his way through MIT, built his own business from nothing. Always the guy people looked past. Even Sabrina had looked past me, apparently. Big mistake. I picked up my phone and called the front desk. This is Eli Granger in the penthouse suite. I need someone to help my wife with her luggage. She'll be checking out tonight. What are you doing? Sabrina's voice had lost its casual confidence. Room service will be up in 5 minutes, I told her. I suggest you get dressed. You can't be serious. We just got married and we're about to get divorced. I was already scrolling through my contacts. My lawyer's emergency number was right there. Unless you want to explain to 200 wedding guests why the bride spent her honeymoon night in the lobby, I suggest you pack quickly. Sabrina's face went through several expressions. Shock, anger, then something like fear. Eli, baby, I was just kidding around. You know how I am. I know exactly how you are. I grabbed her suitcase and started throwing her things into it. The question is, how many other people know? Her silence was answer enough. When the bellhop arrived, I handed him a $100 bill and pointed to the suitcase. "The lady needs an escort to the lobby." "This isn't over," Sabrina hissed as she was led out. "You're absolutely right," I said. "It's just getting started." I spent the rest of our wedding night going through Sabrina's laptop. She'd left it open, still logged into everything. Her cloud storage was a treasure trove of evidence. Photos, videos, text messages going back 8 months. Not just with Chase, but detailed conversations with her friends about how she was playing me. The worst part wasn't the cheating. It was the contempt. Message after message calling me a safe bet, a meal ticket, someone who was too boring to ever figure it out. By sunrise, I had a plan. 3 days after the wedding, that wasn't. I was sitting in my home office in my house in Brooklyn, surrounded by printouts and laptop screens like some deranged conspiracy theorist. Except my conspiracy was real, and I had the evidence to prove it. My house was a 3-bedroom colonial that I'd bought and renovated myself. The finished attic served as my office with windows overlooking the woods behind our neighborhood. It was my sanctuary, my fortress, and now my command center. Sabrina had been calling non-stop, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails. She'd tried showing up twice, but I'd had the locks changed within hours of returning from Boston. Her key didn't work anymore, just like our marriage. The evidence was damning. 8 months of explicit photos and videos, hundreds of text messages between Sabrina and Chase. Planning their hookups around my work schedule, conversations with her best friend, Brianna Walsh, a corporate lawyer who apparently served as their relationship counselor and alibis coordinator. But the real gold mine was the group chat between Sabrina, Brianna, and Kylie Chen from Sabrina's PR firm. They called it Operation Trophy Wife, and it was a detailed strategy for keeping me in the dark while Sabrina lived her double life. "Brianna Walsh, just keep scheduling your gym sessions when he's at client meetings. Eli's too wrapped up in his computer stuff to notice." "Kylie Chen, have you seen Chase's latest Instagram story?" "God, Sabrina, you're so lucky. Eli's sweet, but he's not exactly inspiring." "Sabrina Granger, Chase is for fun. Eli is for the future. Best of both worlds." I printed everything, organized it chronologically, cross-referenced it with my own calendar to see exactly how they'd been coordinating around my schedule. They'd been meticulous. I'd give them that. My phone buzzed. Text from Sabrina. "Eli, please call me. We need to talk." I made a mistake. I typed back. The only mistake was mine. Marrying someone who thinks I'm too stupid to notice when she's been cheating for 8 months. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I leaned back in my office chair and looked out at the woods. Fall was coming early this year, leaves already starting to turn. Change was in the air, and I was ready for it. My business, Granger Security Solutions, specialized in cybersecurity for small businesses. I'd built it from nothing after getting laid off from a corporate IT job 5 years ago. Most people saw me as just another computer nerd. But I knew systems, how to break them, how to protect them, how to use them. Sabrina and her friends had no idea what they were dealing with. I started with Chase. His Instagram account was public, and he wasn't exactly a master of digital security. A little social engineering, a few password reset attempts, and I was into his email within an hour. What I found there made my blood boil. Not only was Chase sleeping with my wife, he was documenting it. Photos, videos, detailed accounts of their encounters that he shared with his gym buddies like some kind of trophy collection. My wife was being treated like a conquest, and she was too blinded by his abs to realize it. But the real revelation was in an email thread between Chase and his friend Derek from the gym. Chase Banner, the husband's a total beta. Skinny computer geek who probably hasn't seen the inside of a gym in years. Sabrina says he works 60-hour weeks and barely pays attention to her. Derek Morrison, you're playing with fire, man. What if he finds out? Chase Banner, what's he gonna do? Challenge me to a coding contest? Guy probably doesn't even know how to throw a punch. I smiled for the first time in 3 days. Chase was about to learn that I hadn't always been a computer geek. Before MIT, before my business, before I became the safe bet, I'd spent 2 years bouncing at a dive bar in Suey while putting myself through community college. I knew exactly how to throw a punch, and more importantly, I knew how to take one. But violence was crude, temporary. What I had in mind was much more elegant. I picked up my phone and called my friend Rick Donnelly. We'd known each other since high school, and he tended bar at Murphy's Pub, the neighborhood watering hole where everyone eventually ended up. If you wanted to know what was happening in Brookline, Rick was your man. Eli. Jesus. I heard about the wedding. What the hell happened? Long story. Listen, I need a favor. You know anything about Chase Banner, personal trainer, works out at Elite Fitness? Rick laughed. That peacock? Yeah, he comes in here sometimes trying to pick up soccer moms. Why? Let's just say he's been giving my wife some very personal training sessions. Ah, I'm sorry, man. You want me to have a word with him? Not yet, but keep your ears open. I have a feeling things are going to get interesting around here. After I hung up, I went back to my computer screens. Sabrina's digital life was spread out before me like a map of betrayal. Every lie, every deception, every moment of contempt was documented in her own words. She thought I was too boring to ever figure it out. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Mrs. Eleanor Fenway had lived on Maple Street for 43 years, and in that time, she'd made it her business to know everyone else's business. At 72, she had the sharp eyes of a hawk and the information network of a Cold War spy, which made her the perfect ally for what I had planned. I found her in her front garden on Thursday morning, tending to her prize-winning roses. She looked up as I approached, her weathered face creasing into a knowing smile. Eli Granger, I was wondering when you'd come by. Morning, Mrs. Fenway. Beautiful roses this year. Don't try to butter me up, young man. I know why you're here. She straightened up, brushing soil from her gardening gloves. The whole neighborhood's talking about what happened at your wedding reception. Or rather, what didn't happen the next day. Word traveled fast in our little corner of Brooklyn. Sabrina's dramatic departure from the Mandarin Oriental hadn't gone unnoticed by the wedding guests who'd expected to hear about a romantic honeymoon. I suppose they are, I said carefully. That wife of yours has been getting visitors while you're at work. Mrs. Fenway's eyes glittered with gossip-fueled excitement. Young man with a fancy car and muscles like one of those wrestling fellows on TV. Is that so? Tuesday and Thursday afternoons regular as clockwork. Stays about 2 hours. She leaned closer conspiratorially. My bedroom window has an excellent view of your driveway. I'd underestimated Mrs. Fenway. She'd been conducting her own surveillance operation without even knowing she was helping me. I appreciate you looking out for the neighborhood. I said, oh, I do more than look. She pulled out her phone, a newer iPhone that surprised me. I've got pictures. Figured you might want them for your divorce lawyer. The photos were clear and damning. Chase's distinctive red Mustang in my driveway. Chase himself walking up to my front door. Timestamps showing exactly when he arrived and left. Mrs. Fenway had been building a case file without even realizing it. You're a treasure, Mrs. Fenway. Just being neighborly. She pocketed the phone. That wife of yours always acted like she was too good for this street. Guess she showed her true colors. I spent the rest of the morning at Murphy's Pub, nursing a coffee and waiting for Rick's shift to start. The lunch crowd was the usual mix of retirees, work-from-home professionals, and people like me who needed a quiet place to think. Rick emerged from the back room at noon, already wiping down glasses with practiced efficiency. "You look like hell," he said by way of greeting. "Thanks. I feel worse." "What's the plan? And don't tell me you don't have one. I've known you since high school. You always have a plan." Rick was right. Even as a teenager, I'd been the guy who thought 3 moves ahead. It's what made me good at chess, good at business, and apparently good at revenge. "I need to know who's talking," I said. "Sabrina's friends, Chase's buddies, anyone who might have known what was going on." "You want names?" "I want everything." Rick pulled out a notebook. "Old school pen and paper. Brianna Walsh comes in here sometimes with her lawyer friends. Loud bunch, especially after a few drinks. Kylie Chen from that PR firm downtown. She's been here twice this week crying into her wine about some drama at work." "What kind of drama?" "Something about her boss finding out she's been using company resources for personal stuff. Apparently, she's been helping someone with their social media strategy off the books." I felt a cold smile spread across my face. Kylie had been helping Sabrina manage her double life, probably using her PR skills to create alibis and cover stories. If her boss found out she was moonlighting on company time, it could cost her job. "Anyone else?" "Chase's gym buddies. They come in after their workouts, sometimes talking about their conquests like they're still in college." Rick's expression darkened. Bunch of overgrown frat boys, if you ask me. I didn't ask, but I appreciate the editorial comment. "There's something else." Rick leaned closer. "Brianna Walsh was in here last night, pretty drunk, talking on her phone. Something about damage control and keeping stories straight. Sounded like your wife's inner circle is getting nervous. They should be nervous." I was just getting started. I left Murphy's and drove to Elite Fitness, the upscale gym where Chase worked, and Sabrina spent her afternoons working out. The parking lot was full of expensive cars and people in designer workout clothes. This wasn't my usual scene, but I needed to see the battlefield. The front desk was staffed by a young woman with the kind of forced enthusiasm that screamed sales commission. "Welcome to Elite Fitness. Are you interested in a membership consultation?" "Actually, I'm looking for Chase Banner. I think he trains my wife." Her smile flickered slightly. "Chase is with a client right now. Can I take a message?" "No message. I'll wait." I found a seat in the lobby with a clear view of the main workout floor. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Chase leading a middle-aged woman through a series of exercises. He was everything Sabrina's messages had described. Tall, muscular, confident in the way that only comes from being told you're special your entire life. He was also completely unaware that his world was about to collapse. My phone buzzed with a text from Sabrina. "Eli, I know you're angry, but we need to talk. I'm coming over tonight." I typed back, "The locks have been changed. You don't live here anymore. You can't keep me out of my own house. It's not your house, it's mine. Bought and paid for before we were married. Check the deed." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. "Then I'm bringing Brianna. We're coming over whether you like it or not." Perfect. I was hoping she'd bring back up. It would make what I had planned so much more satisfying. I watched Chase for another 20 minutes, studying his routines, his interactions with clients, his obvious enjoyment of being the center of attention. He had no idea that his perfect little world was built on a foundation of lies, and that foundation was about to crumble. My phone rang. Unknown number, Eli Granger. "Mr. Granger, This is Detective Sarah Martinez with the Brooklyn Police. Your wife filed a report claiming you've locked her out of her home and are withholding her personal property. I sighed. Sabrina was escalating faster than I'd expected. Detective, my wife and I are separated. The house is in my name only, purchased before our marriage. She's welcome to collect her belongings, but she no longer lives here. She claims you've changed the locks and won't let her in. That's correct. She also claims to have a boyfriend she's been seeing throughout our marriage. I have documentation if you need it. There was a pause. Mr. Granger, this sounds like a civil matter. I'd recommend you both contact lawyers and work this out through proper channels. I couldn't agree more, Detective. After I hung up, I realized Sabrina had made her first tactical error. By involving the police, she'd created an official record of our separation. That would make the divorce proceedings much simpler. I drove home and spent the afternoon preparing for visitors. If Sabrina wanted to bring Brianna for a confrontation, I'd give them one they'd never forget. But first, I had some packages to redirect. At 7:30 that evening, Sabrina's BMW pulled into my driveway, followed by Brianna's silver Lexus. I watched from my office window as they sat in their cars for several minutes, probably discussing strategy. Finally, they got out and marched up to my front door, like they were storming a castle. The doorbell rang 3 times in quick succession, followed by aggressive knocking. Eli, open this door right now. Sabrina's voice carried the authority of someone who'd never been told no. I took my time walking downstairs, checking my appearance in the hallway mirror. I'd changed into jeans and a black t-shirt, casual but not sloppy. I wanted to look like a man who was completely in control of the situation. When I opened the door, Sabrina pushed past me without invitation. Brianna followed, her lawyer instincts already sizing up the situation. You can't lock me out of my own home, Sabrina announced, standing in the middle of my living room like she owned the place. It's not your home, I replied calmly. It never was. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name, and I paid for everything in it. We're married. That makes it community property. We were married for 4 hours. Massachusetts doesn't recognize community property anyway. I looked at Brianna. Your lawyer friend can confirm that. Brianna's expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the wheels turning. She knew I was right. This is ridiculous, Sabrina continued. You're acting like a child. So, I made a mistake. A mistake? I laughed, and the sound was harsh enough to make both women flinch. 8 months of sleeping with another man while planning our wedding is a mistake. Don't you dare use that language with me. I'll use whatever language I want in my own house. I walked to the kitchen island where I'd laid out printed copies of their text messages. Would you prefer I use your language instead? Let's see. How did you describe me to your friends? Boring, but reliable. Good provider material. Oh, here's my favorite. Too wrapped up in his computer stuff to ever figure it out. The color drained from Sabrina's face as she recognized her own words. Where did you get those? You left your laptop open in the hotel room. Amazing what people share when they think no one's watching. I picked up one of the printouts. This is from your group chat with Brianna and Kylie. Operation Trophy Wife. Catchy name. Brianna stepped forward. Eli, I think we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. Oh, we're going to discuss it. Starting with your role as relationship counselor and alibi coordinator. I turned to another page. Here's where you helped Sabrina schedule her gym sessions around my client meetings. And here's where you suggested she tell me she was having dinner with you when she was actually at Chase's apartment. Those messages are private, Brianna said. but her voice lacked conviction. Not anymore. I spread the papers across the kitchen island like a poker player revealing a winning hand. I've got 8 months of evidence. Photos, videos, detailed planning sessions. You three thought you were so clever. Sabrina was staring at the papers, her face cycling through emotions, shock, anger, fear. You hacked my accounts. That's illegal. I didn't hack anything. You left everything open and logged in. That's called being careless. I leaned against the counter, enjoying their discomfort. But let's talk about what is illegal. Kylie using company resources to manage your social media strategy. Brianna providing legal advice without representing you officially. Chase documenting your encounters and sharing them with his gym buddies. Both women went very still. That's right, I continued. I've seen Chase's email. Apparently, you're quite the topic of conversation in the men's locker room. He's got photos, videos, detailed reviews of your performance. Real classy guy you picked there, Sabrina. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the screenshots I'd taken. Want to see? He rates you an 8 out of 10, by the way. Apparently, you lose points for being too clingy and talking too much about your boring husband. Sabrina lunged for my phone, but I was faster. Years of avoiding bullies had given me good reflexes. Give me that. I don't think so. I pocketed the phone. But don't worry, I've got copies of everything. Cloud storage is wonderful, isn't it? Brianna was trying to regain control of the situation. Eli, what do you want? Money. We can work something out. I don't want your money. I want justice. What does that mean? I smiled, and it must have been unsettling because both women took a step back. It means I want everyone to know exactly who you are. All three of you. I gestured to the papers. Sabrina, the faithful wife who was planning her honeymoon around her boyfriend's schedule. Brianna, the ethical lawyer who helped orchestrate an 8-month deception. And let's not forget Kylie, the PR professional who used her company's resources to help destroy someone's marriage. You can't prove any of that, Brianna said, but she didn't sound confident. Can I? I walked to my laptop and turned the screen toward them. This is Kylie's work computer accessed through the company VPN. She's been logging in after hours to manage Sabrina's social media accounts, creating fake posts to establish alibis. Her boss would be very interested to know how she's been spending her time. Brianna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. Problem? I asked. Kylie's boss called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. Someone sent him anonymous evidence of unauthorized computer usage. Imagine that. Sabrina was pacing now, her designer heels clicking on my hardwood floors. This is insane. You're destroying people's lives over a relationship issue. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just revealing what was already there. I closed the laptop. You three spent 8 months lying, scheming, and treating me like I was too stupid to matter. Now you get to face the consequences. What consequences? Sabrina demanded. Well, let's see. Kylie's probably going to lose her job. Brianna's law firm might be interested to know she's been providing off-the-books legal advice to help someone commit adultery. And you? I smiled again. You get to explain to everyone why your marriage lasted exactly 4 hours. You bastard. I'm the bastard. I'm not the one who was planning to keep a husband and a boyfriend like some kind of backup plan. I walked toward the front door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a neighborhood party to prepare for. What party? The Hendersons are hosting their annual Halloween party this Saturday. Big social event. Everyone will be there. I'm planning to make a speech. The blood drained from Sabrina's face. Eli, don't. Please don't. What? Tell the truth. I'll do anything. We can work this out. I'll break up with Chase. We can go to counseling. It's too late for that. I opened the front door. You made your choice 8 months ago. Now you get to live with it. Brianna grabbed Sabrina's arm. We need to go now. As they walked toward their cars, I called out, "Oh, and Sabrina, you might want to check your mail. I think some packages got delivered to the wrong address." She turned back, confusion replacing anger on her face. "What packages?" "Ask Mrs. Fenway. I'm sure she'll be happy to explain." I closed the door and watched through the window as they drove away. Phase 1 was complete. Now it was time to prepare for the main event. The Henderson party was in 3 days. That gave me just enough time to set the stage for Sabrina's final, very public humiliation. Friday morning brought the first real satisfaction I'd felt since my wedding night. My phone had been buzzing with calls and texts since 7:00 a.m., and every single one was music to my ears. The first call was from Rick at Murphy's Pub. "Jesus Christ, Eli, what did you do?" The whole neighborhood's talking about Sabrina and some packages that got delivered to Mrs. Fenway's house. I smiled as I poured my morning coffee. "What kind of packages?" "The kind that require a signature and contain things that would make a sailor blush." Mrs. Fenway opened them, thinking they were hers, then spent the evening showing them to anyone who'd listen. Beautiful. I'd spent Thursday night redirecting several of Sabrina's online shopping orders to Mrs. Fenway's address. Nothing illegal, just a simple address change on accounts that were still logged into Sabrina's laptop. The packages contained items that Sabrina had ordered for her encounters with Chase. Very personal, very explicit items that were now the talk of Maple Street. "Poor Mrs. Fenway," I said, not meaning it at all. "Poor Mrs. Fenway." "Nothing. She's loving the attention." Called it the most excitement this street's seen since the Peterson divorce. The second call was from Tariq Williams, my employee, and the closest thing I had to a friend at work. Tariq was 25, brilliant with computers, and had no filter between his brain and his mouth. "Boss, you need to see the news about Elite Fitness." "What news?" Someone leaked a bunch of internal emails about trainers having inappropriate relationships with clients. The health department's launching an investigation, and 3 trainers got suspended pending review. I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. "Which trainers?" "Chase Banner is one of them. Apparently, someone provided evidence that he was documenting his encounters with married clients and sharing the details with other employees." Shocking. Yeah, real shocking. Especially since the evidence included screenshots of him bragging about sleeping with someone's wife on their wedding day. I'd spent most of Thursday night carefully crafting an anonymous tip to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. Chase's own emails provided all the evidence they needed to launch an investigation into professional misconduct. The third call was the most satisfying of all. Eli Granger. "This is Janet Morrison from Morrison Blake and Associates. I represent Kylie Chen." Morrison Blake and Associates was one of Boston's top employment law firms. If Kylie had hired them, things were worse than I'd hoped. "How can I help you, Miss Morrison?" "My client believes you may have been involved in providing her employer with evidence of alleged misconduct. She'd like to discuss the matter with you directly." "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about." "Mr. Granger, my client was terminated this morning for unauthorized use of company resources. The evidence provided to her employer included detailed logs of her computer activity and screenshots of work she performed for personal acquaintances. That sounds like a personnel matter between your client and her employer. The evidence was obtained through questionable means." "Was it?" "I'd be interested to hear your client explain exactly how she thinks that evidence was obtained." I paused for effect in court if necessary. There was silence on the other end of the line. "Mr. Granger, perhaps we could arrange a meeting." "I don't think that's necessary. Your client made her choices. Now she gets to live with the consequences." I hung up and immediately called my own lawyer, David Chen. No relation to Kylie, despite the name. David had handled my business incorporation and would be representing me in the divorce. "Eli, I was just about to call you. I've been contacted by 3 different lawyers this morning, all asking questions about you." "What kind of questions?" "The kind that suggest your wife and her friends are in full panic mode. Brianna Walsh's firm is conducting an internal review of her activities. Kylie Chen's been fired and is threatening to sue everyone in sight. And your wife's been calling every divorce attorney in Boston. Good luck to her. Any lawyer worth hiring will want a retainer she can't afford. About that, Sabrina's been telling people you have hidden assets and that she's entitled to half of everything." I laughed. "She's welcome to half of our joint assets. We had a joint checking account with $300 in it." "What about the house?" "Bought and paid for 2 years before I met her. She has no claim. Business sole proprietorship established before our relationship. She never worked for the company and has no ownership stake. Savings all in accounts I opened before we were married. Massachusetts doesn't recognize community property, and we were married for exactly 4 hours." David chuckled. "She really didn't think this through, did she? Sabrina's never had to think anything through. She's always had someone else to fix her problems." I looked out my office window at the woods behind my house. Not this time. That afternoon, I drove to Elite Fitness to see the chaos firsthand. The parking lot was half empty, and there was a notice posted on the front door about temporary operational changes pending regulatory review. Through the windows, I could see staff members having intense conversations with people in suits, probably lawyers and health department investigators. Chase's red Mustang was nowhere to be seen. I was about to leave when I spotted Sabrina's BMW pulling into the parking lot. She got out looking frazzled, her usually perfect hair disheveled, and her makeup slightly smudged. She was clearly having the worst week of her life. I rolled down my window as she walked past my car. "Sabrina, fancy meeting you here." She spun around, her face cycling through surprise, anger, and something that might have been fear. "What are you doing here?" "Just checking on my investment portfolio. I hear fitness stocks are taking a beating this week." "This is your fault, isn't it? The investigation, Kylie's job, everything." "I have no idea what you're talking about." I smiled innocently. "But I have to say, it's amazing how quickly things fall apart when people start telling the truth. You're destroying innocent people's lives." "Innocent?" I laughed. "Kylie used company resources to help you cheat on your husband. Brianna provided legal advice to help you commit adultery. Chase documented your encounters and shared them with his buddies like you were a piece of meat. Which one of them is innocent?" Sabrina's face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Eli, please. I know I hurt you, but this has gone too far. People are losing their jobs, their reputations. You should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate me." I put the car in drive. "By the way, I hope you're planning to attend the Henderson party tomorrow night. I'd hate for you to miss my speech." "What speech?" "The one where I thank everyone for their support during this difficult time. I'm planning to share some of the lovely messages I've received from friends and neighbors." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. Mrs. Fenway sent me the sweetest note about how sorry she is that I married someone so inappropriate. Sabrina's face went white. "You can't. Please, Eli, I'll do anything. There's nothing you can do. You made your choice 8 months ago when you decided I was too boring and stupid to matter. I started to drive away, then stopped and rolled the window back down. Oh, and Sabrina, you might want to find somewhere else to stay tonight. I heard Chase got evicted from his apartment. Something about lease violations and complaints from neighbors. As I drove away, I could see her in my rearview mirror, standing in the parking lot, looking lost and broken. Tomorrow night, in front of everyone we knew, she'd learn what real humiliation felt like. Saturday evening arrived with the crisp bite of October air and the promise of a perfect autumn night. The Henderson house was lit up like a Christmas tree with jack-o'-lanterns lining the walkway and fake spiderwebs draped across the front porch. Cars lined both sides of Maple Street as the entire neighborhood gathered for what had become the social event of the season. I'd spent the day making final preparations. My laptop was loaded with a carefully edited presentation. Nothing illegal or explicit, just a chronological timeline of messages, dates, and photos that told the story of my marriage's destruction. Everything was documented, verified, and absolutely devastating. I arrived at 8 p.m., fashionably late, but not suspiciously so. The party was already in full swing with neighbors clustered in small groups throughout the Henderson spacious home. The main living room had been cleared for dancing, and a DJ was playing classic rock hits from the 80s and 90s. Eli. Janet Henderson rushed over with a concerned expression. "I'm so glad you came. How are you holding up?" Janet was the neighborhood's unofficial social coordinator, a kind woman in her 50s who genuinely cared about everyone's well-being. She'd been one of the first people to reach out after news of my separation spread. "I'm doing better than expected," I said honestly. "Thanks for including me tonight." "Of course, you're part of this community." She lowered her voice. "Is Sabrina coming?" "I believe so. We're trying to keep things civil for everyone's sake." Janet nodded approvingly, not knowing that my definition of civil had evolved considerably over the past week. I made my way through the crowd, accepting condolences and support from neighbors who'd only heard pieces of the story. Mrs. Fenway was holding court near the fireplace, no doubt sharing her version of recent events with anyone who'd listened. "Eli, dear." She waved me over with obvious delight. "I was just telling everyone how sorry I am about your situation." "Thank you, Mrs. Fenway. I heard you had some unexpected deliveries this week." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Oh my, yes. Quite shocking, really, though. I suppose it explains a lot about your wife's afternoon activities." The group around her chuckled knowingly. Word had spread quickly through the neighborhood's gossip network, and Sabrina's reputation was already in tatters. At 8:30, I spotted Sabrina's BMW pulling up outside. She sat in the car for several minutes before finally getting out, clearly steeling herself for what was to come. She dressed carefully for the occasion. Elegant black dress, perfect makeup, every hair in place. She looked like she was attending her own funeral. Brianna arrived moments later, followed by a car I didn't recognize. Chase Banner got out of the passenger seat, and I felt a cold smile spread across my face. They were all here, just as I'd hoped. The three of them entered together, trying to project confidence, but failing miserably. Conversations quieted as they walked through the room, and I could see neighbors whispering behind their hands. Sabrina spotted me near the kitchen and made her way over, Brianna and Chase flanking her like bodyguards. "Eli." Her voice was carefully controlled. "Thank you for not making a scene." "The night's still young," I replied pleasantly. Chase stepped forward, all muscles and misplaced aggression. "Look, man, I think we need to talk." "Do we?" I looked him up and down slowly. I can't imagine what we'd have to discuss. This whole situation's gotten out of hand. Maybe we can work something out. I almost laughed. "Even now, Faced with the destruction of his career and reputation, Chase thought he could intimidate his way out of consequences. "You're right," I said. "It has gotten out of hand. 8 months out of hand. Come on, don't be like that. Sabrina made a mistake, but she's learned her lesson. Have you learned yours?" "What?" "Have you learned not to document your affairs and share them with your gym buddies? Have you learned not to brag about sleeping with someone's wife on their wedding day?" Chase's face went red, and I could see his hands clench into fists. "Perfect. You bastard." "Chase, don't." Brianna grabbed his arm. "You'll just make it worse." "Worse than what? This already destroyed my career." "You destroyed your own career," I said calmly. "I just provided evidence of what you were already doing. Evidence you stole. Evidence you created and shared with half the gym." I pulled out my phone. "Would you like me to read some of your reviews of my wife's performance? I'm sure everyone would find them fascinating." The color drained from both Sabrina's and Chase's faces. "You wouldn't," Sabrina whispered. "Try me." Janet Henderson appeared at my elbow, slightly breathless with excitement. "Eli, dear, everyone's asking if you'd like to say a few words. You know, about community support during difficult times." I looked at Sabrina, whose eyes were wide with panic. "I'd be honored," I said. The DJ lowered the music as Janet called for attention. Within minutes, the entire party had gathered in the main living room, drinks in hand, and faces turned expectantly toward me. I'd connected my laptop to the Hendersons' big screen TV earlier in the evening, claiming I wanted to share some photos from neighborhood events. Now, I clicked to the first slide of my presentation. "Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you for your support over the past week. I began, as most of you know, my marriage recently ended under difficult circumstances. I wanted to take this opportunity to share the truth about what happened because I believe this community deserves honesty." The first slide showed a timeline. Operation Trophy Wife, 8 months of deception. Gasps echoed through the room as neighbors recognized the reference to Mrs. Fenway's package deliveries and the gossip that had been circulating all week. 8 months ago, while we were planning our wedding, my wife began an affair with her personal trainer, I continued, clicking to the next slide. But this wasn't a simple case of infidelity. This was a calculated plan to maintain both relationships indefinitely. The screen showed carefully edited excerpts from the group chat between Sabrina, Brianna, and Kylie. Nothing explicit but damning in their casual discussion of deception and manipulation. Sabrina pushed through the crowd toward me. "Eli, stop this, please." "Why should I stop?" I asked, my voice carrying clearly through the room. "You didn't stop when you were planning your gym sessions around my work schedule. You didn't stop when you were using your friends to provide alibis. You didn't stop when you told your boyfriend he could visit our honeymoon suite." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Several neighbors turned to stare at Sabrina, their expressions ranging from disgust to pity. "This is private," she shouted. "You have no right. I have every right to tell my own story." I cut her off, especially when that story involves people in this room. "Who helped you deceive me?" I clicked to the next slide, which showed a photo of Brianna at Murphy's pub with a caption, "Legal advice for adultery, provided off the books by Brianna Walsh, attorney at law." Brianna went pale as her professional reputation crumbled in real time. Chase tried to push toward the front of the room, but several neighbors blocked his path. His gym suspension had already made the local news, and everyone knew exactly who he was. "The most painful part," I continued, "wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the contempt, the assumption that I was too boring, too stupid, too wrapped up in my work to ever figure out what was happening in my own marriage. I clicked to a slide showing one of Sabrina's messages. Eli's too boring to ever figure it out. "Well, Sabrina?" I said, looking directly at her as she stood frozen in the middle of the crowd. "I figured it out." The room was silent, except for the sound of someone's phone buzzing with what I assumed were text messages to friends and family who weren't at the party. "I want everyone to know that I harbor no ill will toward my neighbors or this community," I continued. "You welcomed me and my wife into your homes and your lives. The fact that she chose to abuse that trust reflects on her character, not yours." I clicked to the final slide. "Thank you for your support during this difficult time." The presentation ended, and for a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then Mrs. Fenway started clapping slowly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm. Other neighbors joined in, and soon the entire room was applauding while Sabrina, Brianna, and Chase stood in the middle of it all like targets in a shooting gallery. "You bastard," Chase snarled, finally breaking free from the crowd. "You destroyed everything." "I didn't destroy anything," I replied calmly. "I just revealed what was already there." He lunged toward me, but Rick Donnelly stepped between us. My old friend had arrived late and positioned himself near the front of the room, clearly anticipating trouble. "I wouldn't," Rick said quietly. "Not with this many witnesses." Chase looked around at the faces surrounding him, neighbors who now knew exactly what he'd done and how he'd done it. His shoulders sagged as the reality of his situation finally sank in. "Come on," Brianna said, grabbing both Sabrina and Chase by the arms. "We're leaving." As they pushed toward the exit, I called out one final time. "Sabrina!" She turned back, tears streaming down her face. "Your name's been crossed off the guest list," I said. "All of your names." The three of them fled the party while the neighbors continued to applaud. I disconnected my laptop and accepted congratulations from people who understood that justice had been served. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Janet Henderson pulled me aside. "That was quite a presentation," she said. "It was the truth." Yes, it was. And sometimes the truth is the most powerful weapon of all. I drove home alone, past the house where Sabrina and I had planned to build our life together. The windows were dark, the driveway empty, the dreams we'd shared nothing but shadows and lies. But I wasn't sad anymore. I was free. Justice had been served. Revenge had been taken. And everyone who mattered knew exactly who was to blame for the destruction of my marriage. Sabrina had wanted to play games with people's lives, treating relationships like pieces on a chessboard. She'd forgotten that in chess, sometimes the piece you underestimate is the one that delivers checkmate. Game over.